Okay, just started.
Awesome. Hello, guys. How are you? Very happy to be with you in another community call. And today we have a very special call because we are just this week launching our development of the Vea Bridge. And we have JB here today, so we can, discuss with him a bit of what this bridge is, why we developed it, and well, what are our plans moving forward about this. Maybe, JB, you can start telling us a bit the development of the Kurt V2 and what was the place that Vea plays in this roadmap, and why we decided to do this development.
Yeah, sure. So the next version of Kleros, Kleros 2.0, is will not be on the Ethereum chain, but on a rollup. And because all our integrations, our existing integrations are on Ethereum mainnet, and we don't really want to impact these existing integrations. It was very important for us to find a way to communicate from the rollup to Ethereum L1. And in addition, we also have other integrations on Gnosis chain, and we have continuous requests from projects on other chains to also be integrated with Kleros. There are security reasons also for not having multiple deployments of the Kleros codes on multiple chains, because we need the PNK stakes to be concentrated on one deployment. So if we were not doing that, that means the same amount of PNK would be staked on X number of deployments, and each deployment would be less secure. So that was essentially the main reason for not going multi-chain, but instead going cross-chain. So having one home chain that communicates with other chains where we want to arbitrate.
Maybe short explanation for non-technical people between the difference between multi-chain and cross-chain.
Yes. So it's a multi-chain deployment would be a set of smart contracts that exist on different chains from maybe the same protocol, but they would not interact with each other. So they would operate in isolation. Of course, it's easier to do. Interoperability between chains is not easy. Bridges are still they're still not that good in terms of user experience or even developer experience. Bridges make things complicated. So Vea is an attempt at improving this. So that's where if you try to interact between multiple deployments, that would be called cross-chain, essentially.
So tell us a bit about how the idea of the development for Vea started. So we started to look into what existed in the ecosystem and didn't find what we were looking for. Tell a bit about the backstory of how this came to start.
Yes. So the research on this topic was done actually even before I was involved on the project by our researcher William, and also by Clément, and that was documented in the yellow paper. So the yellow paper explains the concept of having a faster bridge than the default bridge that is provided by the rollups. And yes, so at that time, so that was almost 2 years ago, there were not that as many third-party bridges that we know of today. But even if we were doing it all over from scratch from today, there's still no satisfying third-party bridge right now that would satisfy our requirements of security. Because this bridging building block is so essential. It's really at the bottom of the stack of the protocol. It has to be essentially more secure than everything else we build on top of it. It cannot be less secure than what we want to do with it. So we noticed that many existing third-party bridges, they take shortcuts on the security, which probably works well for some cases. So some of those bridges, they use intermediate chains or consensus layers to get validation from different operators. Those operators are often a closed set of operators, so it's not possible for anyone to just come in and start participating in their bridge protocol. So they are trusted participants. No one knows exactly who they are. And sometimes it takes 1/3 or 2/3 of them to either censor the transactions going through the bridge or to potentially manipulate the data in the transaction. And yeah, there are different various approaches for traditional bridges, but yeah, none of them were really satisfying. Like some of them are secured by multi-sig wallets with admin roles. Others use upgradable contracts that can be upgraded already without notice. And sure, that's also some convenience in the development process. And there are some very interesting discussions about how much control do you want to have on your bridge, and as a general on your protocol when you're building a protocol. Do you want to be able to pause it? Do you want to be able to upgrade it? And we can actually see it just from the latest announcement of Arbitrum. They themselves are able to upgrade unilaterally the protocol, and so we need to trust them. Depending on the situation, it's acceptable as long as everyone knows about it, and it's a process. So if some very unfortunate event was happening, they can react quickly. But not every protocol should be pausable, should be just upgradable, and so it could be, we could see it as maybe a radically conservative stance on security. But for the Vea Bridge, we don't want to have that kind of control. We think it's maybe too much responsibility, and so we don't want to implement Vea with smart contracts that we could just stop and upgrade. So yeah, yeah, I think that's the question.
Yeah. So JB already made a presentation of how the bridge works. Well, Jim can share this on the channel. But maybe you can maybe explain in a nutshell how it works, very short for people who don't know.
Okay. So at a high level, Vea is an optimistic bridging protocol. So when some messages are ready to be sent on one side, and generally it's going to be sent from a rollup, there's going to be an oracle, which is a bot or any participant who can look at the state of those messages, make a claim on the receiving chain about the state of those messages. And from that moment, there is a challenge period. It's very similar to the governor, actually, the Kleros governor. And if there is any challenge during that period, we are going to fall back on another bridge, which is going to be the most secure bridge possible. That's the bridge provided by the chain, by Arbitrum. And yes, and so at that point, Kleros is absolutely not involved in this process. So if there is a challenge on the Vea Bridge, this is different from a challenge on Curator or on the other protocols. It's not arbitrated. It just means that Vea is falling back on the canonical bridge to on the slow bridge to get the correct value of the messages. And so as anyone could participate in operating, being a validator on the Vea Bridge. We will soon release a package that anyone can run with some ETH. Anyone can act as an oracle or as a challenger. And if your validator is successfully challenging a malicious oracle, you will get a piece of their deposit. And yes, and ideally in production, you would want to run your own nodes on each side of the bridge, but at this stage, it's not really necessary. So we are going to release this very soon, this software package.
Good. Well, and tell a bit the community about the plans we have for Vea, and how they can get involved in helping, how they can become validators. You already mentioned, but how can people from the community get involved in Vea?
Yes. So if you are using, if your protocol has selected an optimistic rollup as their home chain, you're very likely to benefit from using Vea for cross-chain interactions, for maybe governance. Maybe your protocol is currently homed on Ethereum L1, but you're considering relocating to a rollup. Then Vea would be a good solution for high-value transactions that don't necessarily have to be bridged very quickly in the worst-case scenario. So you wouldn't sacrifice, if you're using Vea, you wouldn't sacrifice much security for some convenience in the happy path for your messages to be bridged faster, as opposed to using third-party bridges. And so if you are interested in building on top of Vea, please reach out to us. If you are maybe working on a canonical bridge with a rollup or with an alternative network, we could also run Vea on top of your bridge. So it would be an optimistic transport layer, I would say, that falls back on your own bridge in the unhappy scenario. And yes, if you, I guess, and if you're maybe a bridge aggregator, if you provide some SDK that to developers that lets them choose between many different bridges. We would be also interested in being one of those bridges, so that would make it easier to integrate for the developers.
So people from the community, how can they help? I mean, get the word out, and to who they could maybe help us reach? I mean, who do we want to learn about the bridge so they can help?
Okay, so for developer questions, I'll try to answer those questions. You can ask them on the Vea Telegram group, and I guess the rest of the team also will help if the questions are more about potential collaborations. I think Guangyan would be the best person. Yeah, I think Telegram is probably the best place. You can also subscribe to the future blog post we'll post on the website on vea.ninja. Yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Well, let me maybe open some space for questions in case anyone has any doubt about how this works. Oh, is this live already? I mean, what is the status now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So at this point, the code is open source. Anyone can take a look at it and try to deploy it themselves. We are going to provide a deployment for testing purposes very soon. We will also be running our own validators so that on that deployment, there's at least always one validator running. And we are going to also expand to not just L2 to L1, but also L2 to other chains. So for Vea, any message that goes through a slow bridge, such as any L2 to something EVM compatible, is a good use case. So we are going to have Arbitrum to Gnosis chain bridge, and then also other chains as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I also wanted to have William today here so he could explain a bit about the research part that led into Vea. He couldn't make it because he had a little, house accident. I mean, no worry, he's fine. It's just, but yeah, he couldn't make it for today. So maybe we will ask him to explain a bit more on next week. So yeah, super happy about this launch. I mean, this is a super important step, and so also for you to see how many things are involved in building Kleros. It's not just about law, or not just about crypto economics. It involves some very high level developments like Vea, which is like Vea is a project on its own basically, and we still are building this so we can support the development of Kleros 2.0. So yeah, for you to see everything that we put into making this work. I don't know, JB, if you have anything you want to say as final words, some final reflection, or something you want to share with the community.
No, I think we'll release more information. Please stay tuned.
I have some comments. Like the idea of Vea is to be open for the whole ecosystem, right? Not just for Kleros. And do you think that we should, at this point, the development is mostly done by Kleros, right? And maybe it's maybe it's not useful to have more people joining, but what do you see for the future? Do you think that we could have more teams working on like a future version? I know it's immutable, so it should be like a new deployment, right?
Yes, we are always open to pull requests on the repository. If you identified something that can be improved, you can either create an issue or even a pull request. That's even better. We do have a bunch of ideas on ways to improve the protocol, but I think we need to explore them more on a whiteboard before jumping on the implementation. So yeah, that part would be a bit more research. But on the implementation part, yeah, I think it's completely open. When we'll publish some specifications for the validator, at that point, actually, anyone will be able to implement those specs with whatever language they are comfortable with, and that would make the protocol even more secure.
Good. And one thing, like to run the client, forgot exactly the name, but like for now, we will be running one instance of that, and it will be nice if we have like other parties or people interested in using Vea to run that as well, right?
Absolutely. So actually, any projects that wants to use the bridge for their own protocol have an incentive actually to themselves participate in validating the bridge. So it's probably something that we are not going to see too much on testnets, because usually people don't care so much about testnets. We have seen it when they were testing the Shanghai update on Goerli last week, I think. There were some hiccups because the node operators on testnets don't care as much about upgrading it or just maintaining. So yeah, the incentives don't work as that well on testnets, but on mainnets, when there is value at stake, as a user of Vea, I think people will have an incentive to participate more.
Good. And one last thing, like that's, I believe, I don't know if it was Matt, but someone asked if we had the intention of creating maybe a Gitcoin page or something, even if it's like the objective of the projects for now, at least, is not to get funds or anything, right? Because we are using the Kleros resources. But maybe even for people to realize that this is a project for the not only a Kleros project, right? It's something that is useful outside of Kleros and is public good, basically, right? I don't know if you have thought about that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we can explore. Yeah, I haven't explored it too much myself. Yeah, if I think at this point we are still like making sure that there is demand and traction. That is not just a Kleros product. But yeah, actually, many people have requested grants from Gitcoin with much less than what we have, with just an idea and the white paper. So yeah, it's probably doable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also something that I've been thinking about because, well, right now there is the retrospective grants from Optimism running, and rewarding lots of projects. And even if it's well, if the amount in dollars is not like super relevant to the project. It's good to have the recognition of the ecosystem that we are doing something useful, and also get more people interested in participating. Good.
Yeah, and also if any of you want to send us money to the multisig, I mean, feel free, please. By all means, it's always open to get funds from the community as well. I mean,
no funds will be rejected.
We're not going to say no to free money, right? Okay, so awesome, guys. Do you have any question about Vea? Anything you want to know? Okay, well, I guess that's it for today's call. Then we have William explain the other part that we couldn't explain today. Yeah, you can claim your very, very special POAP, and see you on Telegram. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.